Yeah, we'll continue from verse 67. Indriyanam hi charatam.
Indriyanam charatam.
Indriyanam hi charatam.
Indriyanam hi charatam.
Yat manaha anuvidhiyate.
Yat manaha anuvidhiyate.
Tat asya harate prajnam.
Tat asya harati prajnam.
Vayuhu navam iva ambasi.
Vayurnavam iva ambasi.
So this is what I mentioned. No example is a simile. The simile they are trying to get is, for example, if you allow your even one sense, one indriyamu. Indriya means the power of seeing, power of hearing, power of smelling. If any even one of these you allow them control, you become slave to that. What happens is it will carry away your intellect. It will misdirect you. It will destroy our thinking capacity. Like example it gives is like suppose there's a small boat, it is going in a water. The way wind will carry us away. Normally a boat has a particular direction, it is trying to go in a particular direction. Whereas the wind is strong, the wind will not allow you to proceed in the direction it is supposed to go. It will take the boat in a wrong direction. The powerful wind will take it away. And the person in the boat, the captain in the boat, feel helpless. He can do nothing. Similarly, if you allow any of these senses, if you don't keep them under control, a sense will carry away the intellect in a wrong direction. This example which is giving, as the wind carries away a boat in water, if we allow the mind to follow any of the roving senses, that particular sense will carry away the intellect in a wrong direction. This is what it says. As the wind carries a boat away, Vayuhu iva harati navam ambasi. Ambasi is water. Navam, you know that. Similarly, yat charatam indriyanam, because sense is always roving. Sense is never under control. Its job is to look in the world. It's external. It's bahirmukha. We have to make it antarmukha. It is looking at the world in an outside direction. So if the mind follows that sense will carry away not only the mind, but also the intellect. Intellect also will go. Now you can see what is called a metaphor. In this metaphor, the boat is being carried away by the wind. The boat represents the individual self, that is Jiva. The ocean represents the world in which we are all living. The winds denote passions of our mind. And who is the captain of the boat? Our own intellect. And normally a captain is guided by what is called a compass. That mariner compass will tell him the direction north, east, south, west. Similarly, the scriptures are there, which tells us, which gives the direction. Scriptures help us to understand the right direction. And actually, the boat is safe only when it is in a harbor. The boat is, if it is an open sea, is always in a danger. So the harbor is meditation. And what is there beyond the harbor? It is nothing but the safe shore of the reality. So actually, we are all proceeding in a journey to reach the supreme reality with the help of the scriptures, which are supposed to guide us. So in this vast and turbulent ocean called the world, అందుకే దాన్ని సంసార సాగరము అంటాం. The world is like a ocean, turbulent ocean. We will not be able to travel ourselves. We need guidance of the scriptures. So we follow the scriptures. Allow the intellect to control our mind. Then only we are safe. Otherwise, we are at the mercy of the winds. The world will destroy us. We will not be able to reach our direction, destination, will not be able to reach. So, what the verse is warning us, don't feel prey. Don't fall prey. Don't become a victim to likes and dislikes, whims and fancies, because they will take you in a wrong direction. This is what this verse is telling us. Indriyanam hi charatam
Indriyanam hi charatam
yan manonu vidhiyate.
yan manonu vidhiyate.
We clap together. Yan manonu vidhiyate.
Yan manonu vidhiyate.
Tadasya harati prajnam
Tadasya harati prajnam
vayurnavamivambhasi.
vayurnavam ivambasi.
Vayuhu navam iva. Navam iva. Iva ambhasi. Ivambhasi. Vayurnavam ivambhasi. That's the way it gets clubbed. Indriyanam hi charatam
Indriyanam hi charatam
yan manonu vidhiyate.
yan manonu vidhiyate.
Tadasya harati prajnam
Tasya harati prajnam
vayurnavamivambhasi.
vayurnavam ivambasi.
So the warning which Krishna is giving us, when say tasmat means therefore, having given all the reasonable logic, he is now giving you a clear instruction. Tasmat yasya mahabaho
Tasmat yasya mahabaho
nigrihitani sarvashaha
nigruhitani sarvasaha
indriyani indriyarthebhyaha
indriyani indriyarthebhyaha
tasya prajna pratishtita.
tasya prajna pratishtita.
Indriyani means senses. Indriyani arthebhyaha. Indriyanirthebhyaha means sense objects. So one whose senses are completely restrained from the sense objects. Nigrihitani sarvashaha. All the indriyani, once they are controlled, nigrihitani, from the sense objects, indriyanirthebhyaha. One whose senses are completely restrained from sense objects, such a person reaches the state of perfection. Tasya prajna pratishtita. Tasmad yasya mahabaho
Tasmat yasya mahabaho
nigrihitani sarvashaha
nigruhitani sarvasaha
indriyani indriyarthebhyaha
indriyani indriyadebhyaha
tasya prajna pratishtita.
tasya prajna pratishtita.
Now this is again a metaphor. It says how the world is viewed differently by an average person and by a knowledgeable person. That's what it says. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam
Ya nisha sarva bhutanam
tasyam jagarti samyami.
tasyam jagarti samyami.
Yasyam jagrati bhutani
Yasyam jagrati bhutani
sa nisha pashyato mune.
sa nisha pashyeto munehe.
This is a very interesting verse. If you look at the literal meaning, it says, what is day to me is night to a gnani. And what is night to me is a day to gnani. So if you read this literally, it does not make any sense. But here you have to understand actually what it means. That which is like ya nisha sarva bhutanam, that which is like the night to all the beings, tasyam samyami jagarti, therein the self-controlled one, the gnani, keeps awake. What is like night to all the beings, the gnani keeps awake. Yasyam Bhutani Jagrati, for which the for which the worldly pleasure, the beings are awake. Sa Mune Pashyataha Nisha. To the wise man, that appears like night. I think still the meaning is not clear. So we can see here the wise person, he seems to live in a different world of pure knowledge. His world is infinite, changeless, imperishable, free from bondage of all worldly entanglements. Now, to the wise person, this is like a day. That knowledgeable person, to him, Akshara Parabrahma, that looks like a day to him. But to a Ajnani, to a person, the Mudha, to person immersed in life, it looks nothing. To him, it is incomprehensible and dark night. Because if you try to teach high philosophy to a person in the street, he thinks this fellow is a mad fellow. He has no interest in that. To him, it is dark. He is ignorant. So, what is day to the average person is like night to the sage. What is night to the average person is like day to the sage. So here, because we are ignorant people, we are enchanted by the dazzling experiences of the material world, which a sage person knows it is all temporary. He has no interest in this. He has interest in the supreme, in which we have no interest. So this is a contrast between a gnani and an ordinary person. This is what this verse is showing. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam
या निशा सर्वभूतानां
tasyam jagarti samyami
तस्यां जागर्ति संयमे
yasyam jagrati bhutani
यस्यां जागृति भूतानि
sa nisha pashyato munehe.
सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः.
Now one more simile continues here. It is now comparing a gnani with a peaceful ocean, a steady ocean. So he is not disturbed by average, ordinary happenings in the world. A gnani is not disturbed. But ordinary person is totally disturbed. That is the contrast is showing. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam
आपूर्यमाणम् अचलप्रतिष्ठम्
samudramapah pravishanti yadvat
समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत्
tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve
तद्वत् कामायां प्रविशन्ति सर्वे
shanti mapnoti na kama kami.
न शान्ति आप्नोति न कामकामी.
Now it says is comparison between a ocean. A ocean is steady. Ocean is full. In a ocean, continuously big rivers are joining. Any number of rivers may join. However much of water is flows into the ocean is steady. The ocean level will never rise. It is always full. Apuryamanam. It is filled already from all the sides. It remains undisturbed by various streams of water which are continuously entering into the ocean. Sea level does not change. Similarly, a person, a sage, in whom all the worldly objects are entering, he is not disturbed. That's why you can see the ordinary events which happen in the world will disturb an average person. A Ramana Maharshi, whom we showed in the beginning, he is not disturbed. He is never disturbed by the events. He is also seeing the same world. All events are happening around him. He is undisturbed because he reached the stage, he is not disturbed. But same event, like maybe heavy rain, or maybe what you call season is changing, or maybe wind is blowing. So we get worried. He is not worried. That is what he says. Mighty rivers pour enormous waters into the ocean. Okay. And all this is not disturbing the ocean at all. That is what he says. So now what he says is, as long as we consider ourselves as separate and limited individuals, and we are seeking worldly joy, which are finite, that is limited, and temporary, then we become a slaves to our individual self only. The earthly joys and thrills are not enchanting to a person who is already reached the particular level. That's why he says kama kami means a desire of worldly happiness is disturbed, but not a jnani. He is not disturbed by these events at all. That is what it says. So again it says Krishna's advice is coming here. Vihaya kaman yaha sarvan
विहाय कामान् यः सर्वान्
पुमान् चरति निःस्पृहः
पुमांश्चरति निःस्पृहः
निर्ममः निरहङ्कारः
निर्ममः निरहङ्कारः
स शान्तिम् अधिगच्छति स शान्तिम् अधिगच्छति. What happened? Now you can see here all these words are very significant here. You can see this. Nirmamaha. We have to move around in the world. Vihaya kaman, vihaya sarvan kaman. Move around the world, abandoning all desires, and without nirmamaha, that means without sense of possessiveness. Possessions you will have. I will have my property. I am not giving up that. But I will give up possessiveness in that. Assuming it is permanent, that is called possessiveness. So without this feeling as mama, mine, without having a sense of a possessiveness, nir ahankaraha, without sense of ego, the concept of I, nis spruhaha, without earning, without keeps on desiring and running after it. So a person who is able to move around, giving up all desires, without mamakara, without ahankara, without over eagerness, naturally such a person is very, very happy. He attains peace of mind. Saha shantim adhigachati. Saha puan. Such a person attains happiness. That's what its sloka maintains. The wise person is called a jnani or a man of perfection, because this is what Arjuna asked. How does a jnani move? How does a jnani live like? How does he behave? These are the questions of Arjuna. Those questions are being answered by Krishna like this. The wise person, a jnani, a man of perfection, he moves about in the world. Pumam charati. How moves means he moves around the world without having egoism, without having mamakaram, ahankaram. He has no sense of craving, wanting, earning for anything or anyone. So he is free of longing. So he has no disappointments, no agitation, no sorrow. So he is an embodiment of perfect contentment. He lives in total harmony with the environment and the perfection. So this is a very perfect example, depiction of a Sthita Prajna, which Lord Krishna has given in this verse 71, last but one penultimate verse of this chapter, in response to Arjuna's questions in 53. Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya kesava sitadihi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. This is what Arjuna asked in verse 53. So 54 to 71, Krishna has answered these questions completely, satisfactorily, giving lot of examples, of example of a tortoise, example of a sea, example of a saint, all these things, example of a boat, all examples have been given to make things very, very simple and clear. So this is the penultimate verse. Vihaya kaman yaha sarvan
विहाय कामान् यः सर्वान्
pumanscharati nispruhaha
पुमान् चरति निःस्पृहः
nirmamo nirahankaraha
निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः
shanti madhigacchati.
शान्तिम् अधिगच्छति.
Now, for example, you are attending these Gita classes. Have you got any benefit? Have you learned anything? So, if this question is asked to you, okay, I've learned something now. How long will it remain with me? That also Krishna answers. Once we really understand this and attain this state of happiness, this will remain with us till the last end. It will never go. We will not be disturbed from this super state of mind. Esha Brahmi Stitihi Partha.
येषा ब्रह्मे स्थितिः वार्ता.
This is called the state of Brahman, state of perfection. Brahmi Stiti. Esha Brahmi Stitihi Partha.
येषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ.
Na enam prapya vimuhyati.
न येनां प्राप्य विमुह्यते.
Prapya. Once you attain, you are never ever again deluded. That delusion, Maya, will never again come. Esha Brahmi Stitihi Partha.
येषा ब्राह्मे स्थितः पार्थ.
Nainam prapya vimuhyati.
न येनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति.
Stitva asyam antakalepi.
स्थित्वा अस्याम् अन्तकालेऽपि.
Stitva asyam antakalepi.
स्थित्वा अस्याम् अन्तकालेऽपि.
Reading together. Stitva asyam antakalepi.
स्थित्वास्याम् अन्तकालेऽपि.
Brahma nirvanam ruchyati.
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् उच्यति.
Brahma nirvanam ruchyati.
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् उच्यति.
Beautiful conclusion to a great chapter. Hey Partha, that means all of us. Hey Arjuna, hey individuals, hey every listener. Esha Brahmi Stitihi. This is the state of Brahman, nothing else. Control over desires or control over likes and dislikes, trying to get the full happiness and peaceful. Sarva Dukkhanam Harati. This particular state is nothing but state of Brahman. This is state of Brahman. Enam Prapya, attaining which na vimuhyati. No one is deluded. Asyasyam, being established therein. Antakalepi, it can happen anytime, even at the end of life. Ruchyati Brahma Nirvanam. A person attains oneness with Brahman. That means moksha, liberation. A person will get it. So an enlightened stage attains the state of Brahman, which is called the state of supreme consciousness, which is same, which is synonymous with what we call Godhood. It's also called Turiya. There are 4 stages. One is called waking state, dreaming state, deep sleep state, beyond which is called a Turiya, the 4th state. The 3 states are of a waker, a dreamer, and a deep sleeper. So what we understand is we may have different identity. Suppose somebody asks me, who are you? I will say, maybe I'm a pranamite. I will say, I'm a retired officer. Or I will say, I'm father of so-and-so, husband of so-and-so, son of so-and-so. I may say all those things. Or I'm having a property. I'm a owner of a car, owner of a house. All these are identities, but these are not the real identity. Real identity, who are you? Means I am the unconditioned supreme consciousness itself. Everything else is what is called a conditioned individual. You are putting labels on you. These are not real. Because what actually matters is ultimately I. That's why we always show in a small I in a red letters. The capital I, green letters is the real I. So if I'm able to, the small I identifies with the capital I, that is called Brahma Nirvanam. A person reaches that stage is called a Jivan Mukta. That means free even while alive. You don't have to go beyond life. While alive only, you can reach that Turiya state. And this state will continue after death also. That is what this great verse is telling. Very, very powerful verse, summarizes the entire chapter. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha
येषा ब्रह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ
Nainam Prapya Vimushyati
नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति
Sitvasyam Antakalepi
स्थित्वास्याम् अन्तकालेऽपि
Brahma Nirvanam Ruchyati.
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं रुच्यति.
So we have come to conclusion of chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, which has 72 verses, but clearly identifiable in different segments. One segment, the beginning segment, is very, very important. It tells you what is Atma, what is Paramatma, everything explains to you. Verse 11 to verse 30. Verse 11 to verse 30 is the essence, is a jnana of Sankhya. And then having given this, but other things are elaborative only. When Arjuna asked, you have told me so many things, but how does a Gnani look? How does he walk? How does he behave? Does he really exist? This is a doubt Arjuna has in mind. So answers are given. Sita Prajna, that's another segment. Where 53 is the Arjuna's questions. 54 to 72 is Lord Krishna's answers. So in my view, the most important segments are two in this particular chapter, 11 to 30, again 53 to 72. Others are equally important, but these two represent the pinnacle of glory of this chapter. And chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, is again the best chapter, I will say, in entire Bhagavad Gita. That's why it is very difficult to explain. Of the 18 chapters, this chapter, particular chapter, is very, very difficult to explain, maybe difficult to understand also. So worth listening, worth reading any number of times. So with this, we'll conclude today's lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I will have the Shanti mantras after this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.